going to be recording this session, so just want to make sure that everybody on is aware that we will be recording, we will be sharing it out, we will be posting it on our website. Yesterday we Facebook Lived, and it did go over very well. However, my internet connection today is not the best. So decided to not try to pull bandwidth on the Zoom and Facebook Live at the same time. So thank you for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Amber Hefner. I'm the Executive Director of Illinois Digital Educators Alliance. And I am excited to be here with you. I will put my information into the chat window. I think that's something I forgot to do yesterday. So if everyone is comfortable putting their information, whatever they feel comfortable sharing in the chat window, that would be great as well. We'll be making further introductions here in just a little bit, but let's start with Whitney. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Whitney Miller. I'm the Director of Finance and Membership for IDEA, and I'll be monitoring the chat, and you might hear my 3-month-old daughter joining us at some point too.
Awesome, Whitney. Thank you so much. I think that's part of the climate we're in right now. We love having little ones join us, dogs, family members, whomever. So no worries. We want to keep it flexible as much as possible. So thank you. All right, let's get on with our panelists for the day as well. So Anne and Sheree, if you would like to join us via video, that would be great. We will just ask that you introduce yourself, tell us what your role is in your district, what district you work for, and share with us right now what is going well, or what is the best thing that's going right now for the remote learning in your district. Anne, let's start with you. Oh, Anne, you're still on mute, hon.
Sorry. I'm Ann Krolicki. I'm the K12 Instructional Coach at Elmwood Community Unit School District in Elmwood, Illinois. You may also end up seeing my kids come in and out of the room. There are 3 of them, so don't be surprised if you see multiples. There is a lot going well right now for us in remote learning. That's not to say that there have not been challenges. But I think the #1 thing that's going well right now is that people are really prioritizing what is important for students, and thinking about what are the skills and what is the content that really matters for kids moving forward. We're finding ways to continue to communicate with our students and teach them to communicate out, often to larger audiences than they were able to communicate with in the school buildings. And I think that, you know, that's something that ISTE promotes. That's something that all of us find really important, is giving kids that authentic audience. And right now we're seeing that kids are getting that more than maybe they were before. So that's one of the many things that's going well, but it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about and really excited to see. So.
I love hearing that. That's great. So, and just I will be taking notes as we go along, because some of what you share are some things that we'll probably want to go back and talk about later. And you hit on a couple of those, Anne. So thank you so much. Yep. Sheree?
Hi, my name is Sheree Davis. I'm an applied technology teacher for District 159. Applied technology is just a fancy name for saying I'm a STEAM teacher, because I do all of that in my classroom. The best thing going right now in my district is that everybody, through unfortunate circumstances, has the opportunity to experiment with technology. It has kind of been like pulling teeth to get teachers to try different things in their classroom in my district. And please also excuse me, I have a first grader and she's on a Zoom call, so you probably hear her in the background with her teacher. But the best thing is, you know, teachers have an opportunity to experiment. There has been, and I'm sure there still will be, a lot of resistance to working with technology depending on the subject area that you're in. But I think that's been the best thing so far, is that people have now an opportunity to try these different things because unfortunately they were forced into it.
Shri, you always have such a poetic way of saying things. So I love that you say opportunity to experiment. Mm-hmm. That is a great way to frame what is happening right now. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that is so important for us to realize, and even more importantly, at whatever point in time we do finally get back to normal, that these experiments, you know, that have been happening, hopefully transfer over, you know, back into the classroom and back into some of the things that we feel can be beneficial to students, even in the normal educational setting. So with that being said, Shri, do you mind sharing maybe a couple of stories about what those experiments have been that have either failed forward or, you know, been very successful, even possibly with some hurdles?
I do know that a lot of teachers have gotten into Padlet as a way of collaborating, and so and even for us as a staff, and so we'll put out, or a person will put out a Padlet just to say, how's your week going? Share some staff pictures, you know, what you're doing at home with your children. And then that's translating into some of their classrooms as well, even for the gym teachers, because the gym teachers, I think, were some of the people that were the hardest hit, because a lot of them don't use technology in their classrooms. And so it's like, now, how do I take my activities and make them, you know, technology savvy, or whatever the case is? And with the introduction of something simple as that, it's like, hey, okay, you make this board and you go out and you do a 15-second jumping jack, and then you can post that little video into this Padlet so that we all can see that we're all being active, we're doing active things. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've seen so far. I had a discussion with the music teacher last week, and it's difficult for music and choir as well, because she's like, well, how do I get, you know, my students to blend? You know, we're working on blends and harmonies and everything, and now I don't have them sitting in front of me. So how do I get that to work for me? And I said, well, you know, you could try Flipgrid, definitely, you know, have them record the same part. I'm not a music person, so I don't know, you know, exactly what you're looking for, but even just to use that as a way for them to show that I'm practicing on my particular harmony for this song that we've had. There was something on Facebook that I had seen. It was a school, I think, that was overseas, and they were also on lockdown, and their students had come together. It might have been in a Zoom video, and they were all singing and everything. So if I had a music background, that's probably something that I would explore a little bit more. But you know, just those little things. I'm going to take this little tool, experiment with it for myself, and then, you know, try and translate that over into now my remote learning environment. It doesn't have to be anything that's grand that I'm doing, but I'm still having those interactions with my students.
Absolutely, and I love that, and you're exactly right. Just taking a simple tool like Padlet, and I mean, that's a fabulous idea. Like, I'm thinking of all different ways that we could use that organizationally as well, of just sharing out a Padlet, you know, of what's going well, or what are you doing in music, and a great way to curate those ideas. And as people read through them, they're probably going to think of, oh, well, I don't teach music, but I now have a great idea of what I could use based on what I just read and what was shared. So that's fabulous, Shri. Thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. Anne, how about you?
We have kind of a wide array of things happening. And this is one of those times where seeing that span from K to 12 is super exciting, because we're seeing that our youngest students are able to be pretty self-directed when they're given the tools to be able to do that. And our older kids are creating all kinds of awesome things, but Padlet is something that's being used a lot in our district too. One teacher right now is using that. She sent her kids a bunch of resources, and she's using Padlet to have them read through that and then go on and make that a community note-taking site, just like a whiteboard in the classroom would be. And they have to go on and read through everyone else's contributions, and then before they're able to post, they have to add something new and different. So it's really helping them get sort of that collaborative discussion happening, even though they can't have it in person, before they go and create their presentations. And when you're thinking about kids who maybe are struggling or hesitant readers, if the resources are a little bit above their level, that gives them the opportunity to still learn from their peers. We have a lot of teachers who are experimenting with PBL and feedback checkpoints along the way who've maybe not done that before, but see a huge opportunity to do that right now. Teachers are exploring things like podcasts and having kids creating videos, using infographics and hyperdocs to give their kids a few more engaging ways to try something new that the kids are able to grasp. But also see that they've gotten the information that they need while building a new skill at the same time, and thinking about how an audience is going to receive that and keeping it, you know, a way that's easily accessible. So those are a few things that are happening that are really exciting.
And can you talk a little bit more about the PBL? And I probably tuned into that one a little bit because that's one of my passion projects, is to see more project-based learning in schools K12. And so I would love to hear a little bit more about what that is looking like right now in remote learning.
Yeah, so I can kind of share with you three slightly different areas where I think that's happening really well right now. One teacher wanted to continue doing her lit circles, but she wanted kids to create podcasts out of those. So she actually used podcasts kind of in two different ways. One way was that they kept their lit circles going that way, and they had to kind of get on and give a preview over podcasts and listen to each other's. And then they actually shared a few of those out over Twitter. So you could listen to those and see what they did. And then when she did poetry, they did a group poetry project for that. So they all wrote their own poems and shared things out. But I believe she ended up putting those into one podcast that then could be shared out that lots of people could listen to. But of course, along the way, they're drafting, they're getting feedback. And so that's where that whole scale PBL part comes into it, is that they're still getting that learning along the way, but they're creating a bigger piece there at the end. Another one of our teachers, a science teacher, is doing an inquiry project. So the kids, I believe this is for his advanced chemistry class. And so he decided that he wanted them to just find any type of more advanced chemistry concept out in the world and figure out how it worked, why it mattered, why it was important, not just to them, but to other people. And he has kids exploring all kinds of awesome things. I had the opportunity to sit into them, just sort of giving brief explanations of what their projects are earlier last week. And so same thing, they're doing some research, they're sharing their research and getting feedback from each other. He had them do some response on Flipgrid, where then they got feedback from each other before they took the next step. They're creating proposals for what those projects are going to look like. When they're done, they don't all have to look the same way because they're doing different topics, and so different mediums are going to match that message a little bit different. So they're taking all those steps to do that along the way. And one of our history teachers decided that she wanted the kids to take a step back from, history further in the past. And she's giving the kids opportunities to choose a decade and explore those through different lenses. So entertainment, disasters, hopefulness, all these different lenses. And each day the skills she really wanted them to work on were research and then paraphrasing research. She said that those were things her kids sort of struggled with this year, was being able to take what they learned and put it in their own words and then synthesize all of that together. So those are the skills she's going to focus on, and she decided to switch up the content then. So at the end, they're doing something a little bit similar. They're coming up with how they want to present those projects. They're going to come up with the theme for that decade and then use all of those different lenses to explain why they think that theme is that theme. So lots of different skills being brought in there, but on top of that, a ton of her inquiry and communicating conclusion standards are coming into play too. And the best part is that the majority of her instruction is going to just be through that one-on-one or small group feedback that she gives to kids. So she is incredibly excited about it, and I am just loving getting to see all the cool things that are coming out of this. As much of a struggle as this has been, there have been some really wonderful things to come from it, sort of like Shuri said. So
I love hearing those stories, you know, and how inspiring and empowering is it for the students, very clearly, to have this experience, you know, but also for those we serve, the teachers, the educators, to be able to experience some success in doing a different type of design, lesson design, utilizing the technology, and seeing those aha moments with the students. So that's incredible. One follow-up question: what are they using to create the student podcast?
they are using, it's something FM. I'm trying to think of what it is. You know what?
Is it Anchor?
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you so much, Shuri. Yes, Anchor FM.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So both of you kind of talked about, you know, the educators in your district doing some one-on-one and meetings with the students. I can say that that's one area that my son, I think, is missing a little bit. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities to connect with, you know, his classmates, or hasn't really sat in on more than maybe 1 or 2 Zoom meetings or, you know, Google Meet meetings. So what is that looking like in your district? How often are the teachers meeting with the students, or are the students getting the opportunity to engage in the virtual face-to-face opportunity as well? Shree?
Well, since I'm at the middle school, we have each day, I believe, is set for a subject, or there may be multiple subjects on the day, but I don't think that there's more than 2 subjects a day. So because I'm a specials teacher, I know that my day is Wednesday. So every Wednesday I'm available at my time to be able to meet with my students. And so I send out a reminder for them to let them know that I'm going to be on live at this time to discuss the assignment that I've given to you for the week. And like I said, every subject has their own day. For the elementary buildings, I can't really speak to what they're doing there. But like my daughter, for example, she's in 1st grade, and she goes to a Catholic school. So she's been able to meet with her teacher and her classmates every day, because it's 20 of them in the classroom. And so the 20 of them will get on Zoom, and she's going over the reading lessons and the math lessons with them, and she just sends the link every day, you know, saying that we're supposed to be on at this time. So they've been on for a while, because she's been on since 12:30, and it's going on 2 o'clock now. So
she doesn't want to get off. She wants to keep that engagement going. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to guess that, you know, the elementary buildings probably are doing something like that. Maybe not so often. Her school is small. My K-5 buildings are probably larger than that, so they may not be doing the everyday thing. But I know for the middle school, my day is Wednesday. I tell my students I'm on at 1 o'clock, and I'll go over and demonstrate whatever I need to for them with the assignment for the week. I've also done like little videos that I'll put into Google Classroom that they can reference in case they, don't make it on the live.
That's awesome. So how are you finding their engagement with you is on those Wednesdays when they join?
For me, it's weird because I'm not a core class. I'm a special. And so like my very first Zoom that I did with them, I think I had 5 students. And then the next time I did a Zoom, I probably had 30 or 40 students. It's still not all of my students. And they don't have a lot of questions for me because, it's, here are the instructions, you got all week to work on the assignment. But a lot of my students look at it as it's a special class, which is one of the unfortunate sides. And so, it doesn't count for anything. Right. On the other hand, though, I did co-host a Zoom with one of my friends who's a science teacher in my building. And she had about 80 kids on her Zoom, trying to come in and understand, the slideshow, the research that she was having them to work on in there. And so they were a little bit more engaged, making sure that, I'm doing the right annotations on my slideshow. Is this the right place where I'm supposed to get research from? What are you looking for on the slideshow? So they're a little bit more engaged and active. And that's just from my experience, being in the core class. Some of my other teachers that are on the specials team with me have expressed that, we don't have all of our kids signed up into Google Classroom, which is what we're using right now, because there's that stigma of it's a specials class. And so somehow, going forward and as, school changes and everything, and if something like this were to happen again, we have to make sure that everything is instilled in them, that everything is important. My class, is, I want you to try and build something at home, or I want you to try and create some digital art. And they don't look at it right now as, that can be an outlet for me from doing my classwork. Instead of focusing on my reading and math, let me go and check out applied tech and see what cool thing that, this class might have going on. But that's something that we have to instill in the students, especially for my district.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on a couple of really good points as well. One, the opportunity that you have to join with some of the content area teachers, and share your knowledge and engage, and maybe even at some point kind of start some of those project-based learning, where the activity is, something that's science content, but also that applied tech piece as well.
Right.
So I'm sure that was exciting for you to have that opportunity to connect with another class. And I'm sure that teacher appreciated the extra set of eyes in there as well. But I also love your point too about ensuring, that aha moment for the students, in which they need to understand the outlet aspect. This could be an outlet to, just be creative and fun and have a different type of way of engaging and learning. A few weeks ago, we had an art teacher that provided some time with us, like both of you are today, and she shared about a student who she gave an assignment that typically would have taken maybe like a week to do, and this one student did it in one night. And, she's like, because she just became very passionate about it, and clearly she was engaged in it. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that is, the way that it should be. Now you just sparked an interest in a student who maybe didn't know that they had that interest in art like they did. So yeah, some great points. Thanks. And how are they connecting in Elmwood District? I know you mentioned that there were definitely some one-to-ones happening as well, where the students were getting that feedback. But is it kind of a scheduled thing, or more like Cherie said, on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be available?
So it's, again, happening a lot of different ways. And this is why I love being in the district that I'm in, because there isn't this like one policy for how we have to do this. Everyone works really well together to figure out what's going to work best for them, for their kids, for their grade level, their subject area, whatever that difference might be. So one of our first grade teachers actually set up a Facebook page through our district page so that she could go live with her students. They could jump on. Actually, I take that back. We have 2 teachers who are doing this right now. So our Bright Futures pre-K teacher goes on and goes live every day. And then of course it's just posted to the page so kids and parents can go on later if they couldn't be present for the live, and they can make comments to her still and she can respond. So that engagement can be happening, maybe not real time if they're not on there, but it still is happening later. And she is so awesome about checking back in with parents if they make a comment later. And then one of our first grade teachers did the same thing. So she's having little challenges go on there where parents can post pictures and talk about what the kids are doing and share what they're doing with homework. And she's kind of created a little community there for her parents and students. My own daughter, who does not go to Elmwood, she goes here in Dunlap. Her teacher actually has 2 different times during the week for kids. So they have, they're doing more of a gamified e-learning. And so it's Harry Potter themed, and she's in the Gryffindor house. And so Gryffindor meets on Tuesdays at a certain time. But then she also sent out a sign up genius so that kids could sign up just for extra times with her where they aren't doing the 1 time a week lesson that she's doing. And when she teaches that online lesson, she is, her name is Mrs. Brooks, just to give her a little shout out. She's awesome. She makes sure that it's thematic, so it fits their reading and math, and then any other interdisciplinary areas that she can pull in. So there's kind of 2 different groups that can happen there during the week. Back at Elmwood, our junior high teachers they schedule different times during the week and then just put that out on Classroom, but they actually have a spreadsheet between all of the junior high teachers to make sure that they're not scheduling things at the same time or scheduling more than, like Cherie said, more than 2 classes a day. Because the guideline, right, is that we're not overloading them with this, having to be on at a certain time. We want to make sure that we're not giving them too much in a day and not too much time on their screens. And then our high school is doing a lot of Google Meet or Zoom, and then just recording it, making sure they're getting consent from kids before they hit record, recording that, and then posting that on Classroom so that the kids who couldn't be there, again, kind of like on a Facebook newsfeed or on an Instagram account, you can just leave a comment and get that response later and still kind of feel like you're interacting. And lots of teachers have, taken their Google Classrooms off of lockdown as well. So they're letting kids post to the stream instead of just making that a place where the teacher posts. They're having kids go on and put presentations or things that they're creating, their projects, and then comment, pick 2 people and comment on theirs. And then I know there are lots of teachers who are just saying, if you need a time to talk to me, send me an email, send me a message, and I will send you a link for a meet. And Cherie, I think that what you do is so important. I know sometimes it feels like as a specials class, it's maybe not looked at the same way, but what you're providing the kids, that opportunity to get on and talk to you, I'm sure that your class is one that they just absolutely love and probably miss more than you even realize. And so having that FaceTime with you, getting to hear your voice, it's so important. So even if you feel like it's only 30 kids, that's still a lot of kids. And so keep doing it, because the fact that it went from 6 to 30, I think is huge too. They probably told their friends, oh, we got to talk to her and this is what we talked about. And so then you got a huge influx of kids because they were so excited. So you're awesome. Keep doing it. It's great.
I agree. I know my son would love the opportunity. In fact, maybe just send me your Wednesday time, Cherie, and I'll have him join along with you. Oh, but so you kind of hit on an interesting point, Anne, as well, that I wanted to get a little bit more information about from both of you in regards to that parent aspect. You know, we obviously, the three of us, you know, I haven't been interrupted, although I see it's 2 o'clock. He's finally decided to eat lunch. I can hear the pizzazz pizza thing going. So, you know, we're experiencing that as well, right? We're producing content and creating as well, but also trying to make sure that our own kiddos' needs are getting met. So from the educator perspective, how are you meeting the needs of parents, or, you know, how are you connecting with parents or engaging parents as well? Sheree? Sheree, for some reason, we aren't hearing you. I see you're off mute, but.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep.
I'm using Remind with my students and my parents. I typically send like an email blast. Well, let me just start over. I'm using Remind with my parents and students. When this all started, I didn't have a lot of parent participation on Remind, and I still don't. But what I did was I ended up going through our student information system and looking up the parent emails and everything. And so I sent an email blast to all of the emails for the parents that were in my classes. And I said, you know, I don't know if you have my contact information or not, but here's my Remind. That's the best way to get in contact with me, because we have gotten so many emails and it just keeps getting pushed down and pushed down. So I made sure that I did that first so that they can get the information. And so I did have a lot of parents sign up with Remind so that they are able to keep track of the assignments for my class. After I did that, and I went into Google Classroom, and I made sure that I invited all of my students, because we were in the middle of a quarter change when all of this happened. So I had some students that hadn't even seen me before. So I went into Google and I made sure that I invited them all that way. And then if I didn't have students that joined at that point, then I would go back to their parents' email just individually now and say, hey, Johnny didn't accept my invite to Google Classroom. I just want to let you know that he's in my class for this quarter. So if you can, you know, let him know. And I would say that that's one of the ways that my class, the percentage jumped up, is just from me sending out, you know, a simple email blast like that. And then now that I've got them on Remind, it's easier for me to, you know, send a short message or say, hey, check your email. I sent, you know, X, Y, and Z out to you.
That's awesome. Wow. You put a lot of time and effort into that. So kudos to you.
Yeah,
you know, but I mean, again, as a parent, you know, and the students too, but as a parent, wow, how much that would have meant to me to know that you were wanting to put in that much effort to ensure that you were connecting with me, contacting me. And that tells me that you realize the importance of my kiddo. You know, so that's some awesome steps, Sheree. Thank you for sharing. Anne, how about you?
Again, this is where it takes a village, right? And I think that sort of multi-dimensional approach is really important. So to start off, I think if you have a Google Classroom, making sure that you've invited the parent to that so that they get that weekly update about what's going on in class that just automatically goes out, that is something you don't have to do anything extra to do. So making sure that you've invited the guardian to that. Our teachers have done a ton of emailing parents. When they send in, we use Teacheries for our LMS, so Teacheries makes it incredibly easy. When you send an email to a kid through Teacheries, you can just click the box that it goes to their parent as well. So the parent can see that communication, which is great. But when we had kids who just, you know, weren't kind of getting engaged, and we went ahead and started during the Act of God days. So that was incredibly helpful, that there was no real lag time. We walked out on a Friday and we started remote learning on Monday, and the kids just kept in that cycle. But when we had kids who still weren't responding to emails, our principals, Tony McCoy and Dimitri Almasi, both said, teachers, right off the bat, this first week, if there are kids that you haven't heard from, send us their names. We will call them from the school phone and talk to parents and encourage them and see, you know, usually it's not that people don't want to do it, it's that there's something getting in the way of that. But sometimes people are hesitant to reach out and say what that barrier is. And so they asked all the questions to figure out what the barriers were. And sometimes it was, well, my child was, you know, embarrassed to say that they didn't have internet at school, so we didn't bring a hotspot home, or something like that. Or we have internet, but it's not working well. Amber, did you have something you wanted to say? Oh, sorry, Kay.
I'm hollering at my family because the UPS guy is coming and the dogs are going to go crazy. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So if you see my mouth moving right now, just ignore me.
But on top of that, our principals are doing a good job of staying active on social media, putting things out on Twitter. Mr. Almasi, our elementary school principal, puts out the announcements every day on YouTube. And truly, the kids and the parents just seeing that the school is there and present and has made a huge difference for us in terms of keeping attendance numbers high, because we're all just trying to stay out in front of it and be present, and do everything that we can to make sure the kids have whatever resources they need. It's a really challenging time, and people have health concerns and other worries and financial things going on. And I think more than anything else, the best way to just continue to get kids engaged and keep them showing up is that we continue to email and call parents, and be super compassionate and understanding when other things are going on. So.
Absolutely. You make a great point. And I wrote that down, you know, just even, you know, Tony's doing the morning announcements. The school is there and present. And I think that's so important. And what I would call the success stories right now are those districts that are doing that type of thing. You know, like Cherie is, you know, emailing and ensuring that she's in touch with the, you know, parents and doing that until she hears from them, and the morning announcements and the continual communication is so very important, no matter what size your district is, you know, to know that is occurring. And again, from a parent perspective, I can certainly say that's very much appreciated. One of the things too is kind of looking at ways that we can bring in some fun into this difficult situation. So just wondering if either of you have stories about some fun things that either you, your staff, your district, and or the students have done. I know Cherie brought up, it wasn't her district, but you know, kind of that, I've seen a few of those around where the choir students come together in a Zoom and, you know, put together a song. So just wondering if there's something that, you know, anybody in your district has done that's fun like that you might want to share.
No, we haven't done anything fun, but I did just finish the book creator with IDEA. So I'm going to see, after my spring break is over, I'm going to see how I can bring that in next week.
That is awesome. I'm so glad you were on there, because yeah, it was, first off, he goes so fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. But I was like, man, you know, that's good. It's putting me in the position of remembering what it's like to learn something new.
Right. And I'm like, I'm trying to do my my and my drawings perfect. And he's like, okay, 7 minutes is up. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I love it. And I hope that you share out with us what you end up creating, because yeah, my mind was rolling too on so many different ways that could be utilized all the time, but really especially right now.
Right.
So yeah, that will be a fun one, Cherie. I look forward to hearing more about that. How about you, Ann?
We did a district-wide dance challenge on Flipgrid. And then our technology director, Caleb Waddell, put all of that together and put it on YouTube so that people could see. And that was truly our technology integration specialist, Marcy Brugger, was working with a PE teacher to do some fun things on Flipgrid. And then Tony McCoy, our high school principal, wanted everyone to do some sort of dance to Dancing with Myself. And then Dimitri Almasi, really wanted to continue with that too. And so it just became, as everyone wanted more and more people to get involved with it, it just became this big, whole district, whole community thing, where people we danced together, but by ourselves, which was pretty fun to do and fun to see everybody making the best of what was at the time even more challenging. I think we're all kind of getting into a groove now, but at first it was incredibly challenging to get rolling. We have a teacher right now who has been reaching out to a podcaster that he's been having his students listen to. And so this week, or actually, sorry, next week, those two podcasters have agreed to come on a Google Meet with his students and just talk about how they do that and the different content that they talk about. One of them is, I can't remember, it's something in JAM, but it's Chemistry for Your Life. How cool for our kids to kind of get to meet the people behind that. So it's still pretty educational, but also fun. We've done just between the teachers and administration. I sent out an email not long ago just saying, hey, what are you watching, listening to, reading right now? Let's share some ideas just to have some fun between us as a staff. And that was the most, I think every single person responded to that. And it was one of those times where I was like, ooh, I don't want to say hit reply all, but I'm going to do it. And everyone was really happy to hear from each other and see what everyone had been doing. And get new ideas on things to do with our own families, because I think a lot of times that personal part can get lost when you're not in front of each other during the day. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that everyone still, so, we say all the time, relationships are everything. We need to be living that even right now. And so finding ways to keep communicating with each other as a staff, and as a community is so important. But I also think that's one of the first things to drop off when we get busy in something new. And it's probably the most important thing to continue to do. So those are just a few little things here and there that we're doing to try and keep things fun and light.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if you know the YouTube link directly or quickly that you could pop in the chat window, but
I'll find
the
it.
YouTube video of the district, I did actually have the opportunity to watch that, and oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Especially when you know some of the people, and you see what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, just something simple like that. How fun is that? I know of another district that did a district scavenger hunt via Zoom, and I was like, that looks like a lot of fun too. Might throw that idea out to my staff next week, as we're getting ready to roll out a few more new things as well. So we're going to do some go live events next week, including I don't know how long the session's going to be, but they're going to do yoga one day as well. So just kind of that self-care, keep those relationships going, fun ways of engaging, because we still have at least 2 weeks of this left. And now is really the time where I think we need to kick up that fun and engagement in any way possible. So we're at about 2:15. I do want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of those that are on with us today as well. So if you are joining us and you have a specific question that you would like to ask Anne or Cherie, please feel free to come off mute, and or you can put it in the chat window as well. Anne has added the fun YouTube link to what Elmwood School District did for their dance challenge, for maybe an idea of something you or your district might want to do, or your students. I've also seen some really fun ones with, you know, obviously our spring athletes, our hearts go out to them right now, and, you know, missing their seasons, but there have been some districts who have put some really fun spring athletic videos together also. Softball girls, you know, the ball comes flying and they catch it, you know, and you put it together and it looks like they're throwing it to one. I mean, you know, do it, right? I mean, like, have some fun, make the best of what the situation is right now. So thanks for popping that in there, Anne. And again, if there is any questions that anyone has, again, I'll give you a second to come off mute if you want to share something or ask a question, and we're monitoring the chat window as well. If not, and we can continue monitoring it, but I do like to finish up with just a little reflection. You know, one of the things that's important for lifelong learners is to be reflecting and thinking about, you know, what's going well, what could we improve, where do we think we might be, you know, at the end of this. And so just looking for your reflection and your advice for anyone that might need a little inspiration or motivation during this time. Anne, how about you?
I think the first thing I would say to anyone, and this is a lesson that I have to give myself all the time, is don't compare what you are doing to what anyone else is doing, what you see on Twitter, you know, or what you're seeing on Instagram or whatever. I think behind the scenes, every single person is struggling in one way or the other, just like we struggle in our classrooms when we have a day that doesn't go well, or the kids aren't, you know, just because a kid is sitting in your class doesn't mean they're necessarily showing up that day. And we struggle with that, making sure that we're getting kids to show up every day. So number one, don't compare yourself. You know, the big takeaways, I was listening to a podcast 2 weeks ago, and the goal is growth, right? That's the goal for our kids. It should be the goal for ourselves. If we are trying, you know, to make the targets a little bit clearer every day, to make the instructions a little bit clearer every day, to try something new every single day, and then learning from it if it doesn't go well, or capitalizing on it when it does, then that's the important part. I think that something that's gone really well is that people are figuring out, or maybe just so far outside of their comfort zones right now that they are seeing things with fresh eyes, and thinking about, you know, one teacher said to me, I have no idea why I did it this way for so long. Why did I do that? And she was really hard on herself, but I said, that's nothing to be hard at. We all do that. We get into our habits and our routines. Sometimes it's not even a conscious decision. It's just, you know, I do it this way because I do it this way, and because I haven't been confronted with a situation that makes me reflect, even if you're a really reflective person. And I think another, like, one last piece of advice would be, you know, don't try to make everything just like it is in your classroom. Mm-hmm. And I'm just speaking from personal experience. The way that I'm coaching right now is incredibly different than the way that it was when I was at school. I am not an email person. It's not my favorite mode of communication. In fact, it's probably my least favorite, and I'm a writer. So it's been a challenge for me, but I have found that there are a lot of things, at least a few things, that I was not as efficient in as I could have been. And it was just because I wasn't forced to do something that was a little bit more uncomfortable for me. So right now is a great time to not try and make things look exactly the same as you would do them in your classroom. And it may flop or it may not, but the stakes are low right now. So it's a great opportunity to try something new without worry. that it's not going to go well. So.
Absolutely. Great points. Thank you so much, Anne. Cherie, what would you share?
I liked everything that Anne said, but also do what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, we have gotten so many emails. Oh, this site's offering free, and this is free, and this is free, and this is free. Do what's comfortable for you. If working in Google Classroom and putting a link to Padlet for your students to post something on it every week is what's working for you, then let that work for you. If you want to try something on your own time before you try to integrate it into your class, there's no shame in doing that behind the scenes to try and figure it out and determine if this is something that I actually want to use. Don't feel like because you got all of these emails pushed down to you from either your district or just from these outside companies sending this stuff to your teacher account that you have to use them for remote learning. Do what is best for you, what's comfortable for you, and what's going to be comfortable for your students.
So true. The inundation of everything that was being sent out was overwhelming. Yes, exactly. And yeah, absolutely. So I think that is a great point, Cherie, that it's, you know, not to say that these things aren't out there for you to be able to utilize, but right now do what you are comfortable with and be a rock star at doing that. And I think that's really what, you know, your students need right now. So absolutely. Kevin had asked, and I think this is a great kind of final question, is how much do you think this period of time we're going through right now will impact and change education moving forward? Like, and I would say like this is my hope, right? Like I've been sitting here and I've been thinking to myself over the last few weeks, oh my gosh, I hope that this is, you know, these aha moments that we're having take us that next step, and we, you know, do take that into our normal classroom routine when we go back. But there is a part of me that fears that putting ourselves back into a classroom, it's very easy to fall back into those old habits. You know, so even with your experience, because you guys are the front line, you know, are these conversations that teachers are having and are sharing with you, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think I want it to change a lot. I had been having some conversations with my own administration about providing more technology support for teachers because of what I was seeing in my classroom. And, you know, I focus on, I guess, the more advanced end of technology where we're not just doing typing and working with spreadsheets. And I want you to take it a step further and incorporate your projects into it. And we do have a technology class as well, but how is technology being used in the core classes? And there are a lot of teachers that were very afraid of using technology in their core classes. And so, you know, having the conversations with administration about how we can go about providing support to our teachers so that they feel comfortable enough to be able to push that down to our students was one of the conversations that I was actually having with my building administration before all of this happened. And then it happened. And so now I'm hoping that, you know, they look at this and they say, okay, yes, we need to make sure that we are providing consistent professional development and support for our teachers so that they can be more comfortable, so that in the end, our students can be more comfortable with using technology. So in the unfortunate event that something like this may ever happen again, that it transitions a little bit easier than it did this time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And great point that those aha moments don't just happen at the classroom level, they are happening above as well at that administrative level. So great point, Cherie. Anne?
Yeah, just to follow up, I mean, I think people are realizing how important autonomy is for quality work to happen. And I think that's happening from all levels in education. I think teachers do incredible things every day. You know, we, as educators, we create all sorts of experiences for our kids. And I think people are realizing that when teachers have the freedom to look beyond maybe a canned curriculum and do the things that they want to do, and allow kids to do the things that they want to do, and discover content and skills and develop skills through things that they're interested in. I think that I'm hoping that that sticks around. I also think asynchronous timelines, I'm hoping that that will be something that sticks around a little bit. One of our teachers said, my students have been so excited to be able to work through some of the things I'm doing at their own pace because I'm releasing all of that to them early. And he said, you know, publicly on Twitter, why didn't I do this all the time before? And again, that is no one's fault. It's not bad that it didn't happen before, but sometimes it takes something like this to have that happen. And he has said that he is loving this, and he's an incredible teacher who does awesome things in the classroom and loves being at school, loves his job, loves the kids. But he said, you know, it seems like my kids are enjoying this just as much as they enjoyed class. I'm enjoying this just as much as I've enjoyed class. I feel like I'm still communicating with them. And so I'm hoping that those two things, right? Giving kids a little bit more freedom over what they learn and how they learn, and then the timeline in which they learn that. I'm hoping those aha moments are going to stick for the long run.
So true, so true. And I think that, you know, you both bring up a good point of, we really may not even know the full impact of this, you know, until we are back together and we do start having some of that even student feedback, right? Like, gosh,
Yes.
like I learned so much better when this happened, you know, and that teacher, I'm sure, is experiencing that, you know, to see their learning exponentially grow because of the change that was made.
Yeah.
And Kevin shares, it's great seeing teachers discover new resources that they may have been afraid, but now they use and enjoy and are no longer afraid of. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Anne and Cherie, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise and your passion. I am inspired by both of you and what you're doing and the stories that you're sharing about what is happening. And, you know, it's our way of taking a difficult situation, but finding the good and finding the positive and finding those aha moments that can inspire and empower the students that we're working with. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Whitney has put the PDH form into the chat window. So Anne and Cherie as well, please make sure that you do fill that out and get your 1 PDH today for your time in creating and sharing as well. So thanks again to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Friday, and fingers crossed that this winter storm comes and goes very quickly, and we finally get some true spring weather next week.
Absolutely. Right. Everybody take care.
Thanks, everybody. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye.